Good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome to another edition of the Brothers of Legacy. I am your host with the most, Anthony A.D. Walker, and I'm here with Pastor Brian A. McCory
Bless you.
in the building. Let's see. Can you hear me well? Maybe that's okay.
Yeah, I got you.
Okay, awesome. So as you can see today, we're talking about is a man's success only measured by money? Man's success. Um, and it's funny, I was reviewing the high value man definitions. There's a few. There's a few. There's the most popular from Mr. KS, and then there were some others that were pretty interesting. Blessings, Lisa. Good morning to you.
Morning, Lisa.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you for hanging out, being here. So yeah, we are just want to dig into this topic, dig into this conversation. You know, the internet is an interesting place. Social media, and if you get, and I realize if you get caught up in what you see the most, you begin to think this is what people are thinking. Like this is what everybody's thinking. you know, and sometimes you can gauge comments because sometimes comments are real. They're like, yeah, true. I feel you on that. If they start agreeing with the post, you're like, okay, that's a small consensus. But you got to think about one, the size of at least the United States, or even the size of your state. you know, and think about what's being said and the thoughts that are going forward. And for the most part, you find there are small pockets of people that believe certain things.
Yeah.
And so and I had to kind of come to that realization because I used to, you read stuff so often, you're like, well, this is only, if you really think about it, only 5 people actually said this. And they may have maybe at the most like 50 people comment and agree. Well, 50 people comment, 25 of them agreed. The other 25 argued with the post. Like, so you be like, maybe most people aren't thinking this is just someone with some crazy thought in their head, that you just have to see a lot because people are commenting. It's a post that's getting a lot of traction. So I always think about, I had to put that in that perspective because it used to bother me sometimes, like how people think like this. Like, why do people, you get in that why do people mode, and then you realize, nah, it's not really that many people thinking this, or
Oh, you mean
truly.
because of all of the activity surrounding it does not necessarily equate to people agreeing with it.
Right. I'm like, okay, maybe
Right. Everything that's talked about is not agreed with.
right. Exactly. So I was like, you know what, it's just people with, that you have in your circle that have crazy thoughts now have a platform to put it out there for all the other people on that fringe to agree
Absolutely.
with. So so before they were in their basement telling you something, you're like, yeah, you tripping. You tripping. So it's just out there more. So I sound like Dwayne now. I say all that to say this. um when it comes to success and being measured by money, it's just it seems like I've been seeing more posts or videos, and I, from like a woman's perspective of, that's how these particular women measure a good man. Um, I understand it being a start, because having a job, at least just having a job, earning some income, working, I get you. That's a basic. Um, but is a man's overall success measured by money? And we're going to kind of dig into that, and any personal experiences that we've had or things that we've seen in others. All right. So that is the conversation. Make sure you share. Sharing is caring. Tag somebody that you've had this conversation with, because I know we talk about these things in the dark. So tag them, say, hey, we were just talking about this, and get in here and let's have this conversation. All righty. All right. So as always, We're gonna drop this intro and we'll bees right back.
I didn't want to catch
Good
that.
morning.
Good morning. Welcome to another edition of Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. What's up, everybody?
This episode is brought to you by StreamYard. Ready to go live? Go to bit.ly/StreamYard BOL. That's bit.ly/StreamYard BOL. This episode is also brought to you by Self. Build credit now. Go to bit.ly/now build credit. bit.ly/now build credit. All right. Welcome back. Let's do this right here. So we're talking about, is a man's success only measured by money? So my first question to you, Pastor, as we begin this conversation, do you feel like as a man, I do personally as a man that you are, that most people measure our success or who we are by money? Do you feel like, I won't say regardless of what you do, but the culmination of who you are, where you go, when you step into places, do you feel like money is the thing that most people measure us by? And it's funny, before you answer, where was I at? Getting a sandwich somewhere, and me and the gentleman were just having a conversation, and somebody just bust out. He said, "What do you do?" I just came out of nowhere, it was kind of like the middle of the day, I guess. He was an older gentleman. He looked like he may still be working like on the brink of the retirement space or whatever. He's like, "What do you do?" And I found it funny that he asked me that. I was like, wonder where that came from, and so I often think about, you wonder what people do, especially, if you go to their house, that big house, like you go hang out somewhere, they have a really nice car. You see them if they got like some newest Lexus, or just like, man, I wonder what we do it like, I wonder what they do. I wonder what they into. Like, what is it that they do?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
it's always curious, especially if you see somebody somewhere all the time or dressed a certain way, like, man, because like one time you can kind of front, but consistently you're like, yo, they always tight. I see that watch, I see that Movado on their wrist, like, I saw them with like 4 Rolex, they were different. Like, what do they do? But is it so? Are we really measured by our wealth? By the money that we have. What's up, Mike? Good morning. Hey, Mom.
Morning, Mike. Morning, Mom. I have had many a debate.
Okay.
About finance. But even with money in the bank and bills paid,
right,
I have been made to feel less than adequate.
Ooh. Okay.
So
okay.
In my experience, success cannot be limited to financial disposition.
Okay.
Right.
For
me, it always goes back to the law of first mention. What does God say about a thing? Whenever we ask a question, I want to know, what does God say about it? Right. And not only do I want to know what does God say about it, I want to know the first time God said something.
Nice. Okay.
Right. Because the law of first mention sets the standard.
Right.
And when you look in the scripture, in the book of Genesis, when God
Yeah,
presented
good morning.
everything in the garden.
Right.
He put everything there,
Mm-hmm.
and then he placed man,
Right.
and then he gave man the responsibility to keep it.
Right. Right. Right.
And then he brought the woman.
Right. Yes, indeed.
And I think oftentimes men and women get the order confused.
Mm.
We connect ourselves to a person without consideration of the law first mentioned. And the reality is that before God gave man a woman, he gave man a job.
Right. Exactly.
He had responsibility to keep
Yes, indeed. Hey, good morning, Keita.
the garden. And
Right.
and so my position is, if I'm going to eat, I must work.
Right.
If I'm going
Right.
to have someone to cover,
Right.
then I must have the resources to cover them.
Right.
Right.
Right. Right.
That doesn't mean that I won't go through hard times or anything like that. You
Right.
know, when we talk about success, I don't believe, I got to raise my chair up. I don't believe
Right.
that financial achievement is the measure
Okay.
of success.
Right.
I believe that it is a component. I think financial achievement is the fruit
Okay. Okay.
of your labor,
Right. Yeah.
but it is not your labor.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
We know this because Donald Trump has a whole lot of money,
Right. Right.
but he had a
Right.
whole lot of money when he was born because his father had money.
Right. Exactly.
Right. So when we talk about the measurement of success, what we're really talking about is what we talked about yesterday. What we talked about legacy.
Right. Yes.
Right.
There we go. Yes, indeed.
And so I'm not. This is not my way of saying, you know, stop complaining, stop worrying about how much money a man has, because that is not what I'm saying.
Right. Right.
What I am saying is that if that is your first rule of measurement, then you have already missed it.
Okay.
So that's the beginning of the conversation.
Yes. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. The first rule, right? So as men, and have you ever been in a group with other guys and kind of
and speak up, women.
yeah, definitely.
We
That's
need some
for you
comments
guys as well.
from the women, because
Yes,
the
indeed.
question is a man's success measured by money? What
Yes.
do you all
Yeah.
measure? How do you all and look? Don't be shy because we put it out there like that.
Right,
Because now
right.
you're like, well, I'm not gonna say nothing because I'm gonna look like an idiot. Man, look,
Listen.
tell the truth.
Yeah, we want to have a healthy conversation. Don't worry, we'll discuss some respect, you know. And I know with us with the men on the platform, you just like,
If
yeah,
you're a gold digger, be proud.
Are you proud of it? Like, man has to at least be 6 figures before I even give him my phone number. So verified. I need to see the account. Oh,
Please.
I you know, I asked this question because, you know, like I said, it's kind of been out there a lot. And I was going through like a lot of YouTubes, and I constantly hearing about it. And so I wonder, so do you feel like we judge each other? Pastor, do you feel like we judge each other by our wealth, you know, what we drive or what we have? I mean, there are always curiosity, like, oh man, that's nice. Like you have something that's different, you know, like something either that's rare or something that was built specific, you know, like not hand built, was a modified, you know, like, oh wow, how'd you get your bike to look like? You know, there are curiosities, but do you feel like we kind of measure each other based on what we have financially? You know, of course, it generally trickles kind of materially. You know, there are those that have a wealth of money that don't look like it, you know, but the you know, do we constantly, like I said, when we traveling through homes, or if someone invites you over, you look like, wow, this is really nice. You wonder, what did they do? Other than those moments, do you feel like we judge, not judge? Well, I guess judge may work, but do we look at each other and our income, how, not just what we do, because what we do kind of matters, unless that's, really, really curious, but what we do as far, how much money we earn. Do you feel like we judge each other? Have you been in those kind of circles where people on the sly, like they're not asking you what you got, but they're asking you what you got,
Yes.
Oh,
Absolutely.
and let's see, Sam says money definitely has its place. However, all the money in the world doesn't account for character, honesty, respect, or loyalty. We all have seen, heard the rich monster stories. Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
And one person would respond to that and say, "Oh, that's just what people say who don't have any money."
Right.
I know that's not Samantha, but
yeah,
that's what
okay.
I'm a minister. I serve the kingdom, and I shepherd a fellowship. And you want to know how many times someone has asked me, I meet a new pastor and he says, how many members do you have in your congregation?
Right.
As if the quantity of individuals who show up are the measurement of your effectiveness.
Right.
And so if someone asks the question, why does it matter how many members you have? Someone will say, oh, that's what people who don't have many members say. Right.
That's good.
I say all that to say, like I have a Harley Davidson.
Right.
And, I invested a lot of money into making it look the way that I wanted it to look.
Right.
And people have seen the bike and they've wanted to know what I do for a living.
Right.
And I'm saying that I know an auto mechanic whose Harley Davidson has more on it than mine.
Right. Exactly.
The investment in your toys is not the measurement of your wealth.
Right.
It's just where your priorities are.
Right.
I could drive a fancy car and live in a 1-bedroom low-end apartment.
Right. Yes.
But
Yes,
because
indeed.
my pride is in my vehicle, I put all of my resources into that.
Right.
You understand?
Right. Yes, indeed.
I don't drive a fancy car.
Right.
I've never driven a fancy car. I have a beautiful motorcycle.
Right. Right. Yes, indeed.
I drive a minivan.
Right. Yep.
But that is not the measurement of my success. The minivan is because I had a son with special needs. Right. It was a requirement.
Yes.
So the measurement of my success is validated by my ability to obtain the things that are needed for the comfort of my family. Right. That's an effective measurement of success for me. One component. Does my family have what they need? Right. If my family has if my family's not complaining about shortfalls in their daily life, then I would consider myself successful. To a certain extent.
Right.
As it relates to, the tangible things, for the comfort of life.
Right.
There obviously, there's a whole lot to uncover in this conversation. I'm still waiting on some folks. My mother says I have always respected the working man.
Right.
But a gambler is a working man. Right.
It's consistent. Going every day.
I work hard to try to make this money
at
the gambling house.
Right.
So it does matter what you're working hard at or what you're working towards or what you're doing with your time. It does matter. And that's why that this is such a broader conversation.
It is.
You know,
Yeah.
he makes a whole lot of money, but he's hurt a whole lot of people.
People. Right.
Right.
Yep. That's true. Mike says, when I got the understanding of wealth, my life changed. Wealth is abundance of anything. If a relationship is based on money, what happens when or if the money runs out? I think true success is my happiness, although money helps us to survive to get the necessary things for life. Yes, indeed. Mike also says, success for me is about what I leave when I'm gone. I want to leave something for the world to remember me, either my books, my poetry, my videos, my land, my 401k, and the lives I usher into the kingdom. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And it's funny that you say that, like when you meet other pastors, they ask, how many members or what's the size of your church, and I guess success, we never talk about like the impact part. How many lives have you impacted, or how many testimonies have you heard, or things of that nature, and everybody's even impact, I guess, is different, because though I may have impacted 100 people, you've impacted 10, but those 10 people have gone on to impact thousands. Like, so it's success, and and I get people looking at you. I guess I get it from a financial standpoint. Like I said, that, and it's funny, I was waiting for you to say it first, because I was like, I don't know if you ever mentioned your bike. But I was like, I don't want to put his business out there. I don't know if you want everybody to know he got a nice bike. But, like that, the Harley and things of that nature, you hooking it up like, wow, what, and it's funny what you said, that people, when you're on your Harley, people ask, like, what do you do? It's funny. I was talking to my wife.
How can you afford to ride a Harley Davidson?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But people don't, I've been riding motorcycles for over 30 years.
Right.
And I have created space in my life, in my world.
Right.
To have that component.
Right.
It has been worked into my life from a very long time ago.
Right.
So I had the Harley, I had a motorcycle when I didn't have any money, because it was a mode of transportation.
Right.
Exactly.
Exactly.
And it was the best mode of transportation in Los Angeles, because it was better to have a bike in Los Angeles than to have a car, because of the traffic. Yeah. Because in Los Angeles, you can ride the white line.
Right. I hate y'all. Just I see you. I'm gonna open my door.
Yes, like many people with money and misplaced priorities. Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
One writer said that the measure of a man, you all have heard this, the measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands in moments of challenge and controversy. Right.
Yep.
That's a quote.
Yeah.
That I've heard many times.
Right.
And so I always, and you said it just the other day, I'm not trying to be famous. I'm trying to be impactful. Right. And I laughed when you said it, because I'm like, I know he heard that from me. But the point is that the greatest component of a man's legacy is what Gibson is talking about.
Right.
Is what you leave people with.
Right.
Because I can put money in your hand and it does not change you. Right. But if I can put a thought in your mind or put something in your heart, that's going to have a greater impact than any money that I can put in your hand. And so that's what life is about. But again, as Michael alluded to, I wasn't always here, because there was a time that it was about the money. Let's get this money. Let's people now say, let's get this bag.
Right.
Everybody's trying to get the bag.
Right.
But my challenge, my concern is if what's in the bag is limited to money, to dollar bills. Because if you're just trying to get the bag, you've missed so much else in life.
True.
Happiness comes and goes because it's emotion.
Right.
I'm at this day, I'm more concerned with what's going on in the spirit of man.
Hmm.
Right. Because if I can put the right thing in your mind and in your heart, I never have to worry about your financial achievement because you'll always have the right or the proper perspective. But again, I have evolved into this person.
Right.
So now, where I was self-centered and self-focused has now become Christ-centered and kingdom-focused.
Right.
And if you're Christ-centered and kingdom-focused, then you don't have to worry about what you have because you know what the Bible says. I've seen many. And Lisa said, money doesn't equal success, especially if that is all a man has to offer me. Absolutely. I'm looking for honesty, faithfulness, respect, progression. Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
Let's see. As Mike said, I've been in technical sales 21 years. When I saw people dying of heart attacks for the bag, I was like, you can keep that bag. Right.
Yeah.
I think he said Bernie Madoff had money and ended up in prison because of the way he acquired it. Yes, indeed.
Right. Yes, indeed. And that's the thing, when you consider a life like that and you consider where he ended up, you have to ask yourself, was it worth it?
Right.
For what does it profit a man to gain the whole world and lose his soul? Now, I'm not telling you that Bernie Madoff is going to heaven or going to hell.
Right.
But I will tell you that the end does not line up with the word. The word says the latter shall be greater than your past.
Right.
I don't think he ended up like that. Right.
Yeah. I think in the pursuit of the bag, if as a man the only measure of success has been money, you're right, you do whatever to get it. I think unfortunately we lose out, like Pastor was saying, lose out so much on your life, that abundant life, when our focus is just the bag. We can spend so much time working, we spend so much time chasing, and never enough time enjoying what life brings, enjoying the moments, or, building relationships with others, So if your only success, if your only measure is by the money, if it's crazy, because, those that are so focused on chasing after money, generally don't enjoy life. They're just focused on earning. And like, and Mike, you said it best, saw people dying of heart attacks for the bag, and it happens. Like, what of your life, what have you accomplished, or what impact have you had just chasing the bag? Mm-hmm. We need to get into a space of kind of freedom, right? Working is a necessary thing, but what are you working for? What are you working towards? It should never be, working should just not be for work to get things. I'm working or working to pay for things. Because I think somehow that's kind of like the trap we kind of fall into as an adult. You build up so much stuff. It's like, I got to keep hustling just to maintain this stuff, whereas if you can find a way to get ahead of it, then you're not stuck in the have to space. You can kind of choose how you go after things. And if you look at people that are successful in certain spaces, they worked hard they had a goal of working hard to a certain spot, and now they can choose what they do and maintain a lifestyle, So that's, and I get it, because measuring a man's by success, by money, has been something that's just been forever, forever. That's kind of like how everyone's just, Forbes 100, to be the man of the year, and it's always been that dollar amount. And I get it. That's probably the most quantifiable way to really see somebody's success, other than if you have a church, maybe like you've had an offspring of 1,000 different pastors come out of your church, or authors and presidents and big, it's hard to quantify a lot of stuff. I guess Father of the Year can get, you had your daughters and sons become CEOs, but it still always come back to a money thing, which is about the only thing you can see. But I think when it comes to having relationships, it should always, of course, be about integrity. It should be about character and things of that nature that we should be measuring by, and what's his purpose? What's his work? What is he into? That's the measurement. I know that the money is like the bottom line. Mike said, the first time I was let go from a job, I realized that a person can be highly intelligent, articulate, and have no money. When my wife's companies downsized, my view of money changed. Nice. Okay, hold on. It's always a red flag for me when a man approaches me and leads with money, as if that's what I am attracted to. Then when asked about his vision and plan for his life and me in it, crickets. That's good. That's good. That's good.
We are we are God's divine creation.
Mm-hmm.
So how is it? Because when you talk about measuring a man, you're essentially talking about judgment,
right,
of an individual.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So if we are God's divine creation, who are we to judge God's divine creation?
Right.
I think that the greatest error of the collective consciousness is judging a man by what he has,
right,
as opposed to who he is.
Right.
And I think we have to move away from measuring man based on what he has,
right,
and considering man based on who he is.
True.
I think that the best of men are the ones that no matter what situation you put them in, their character remains intact.
Right.
That is a great measurement of man, his character, his integrity. I think Samantha said something about that earlier, as did Lisa. And so I think it's great commentary. It's great fodder.
Right.
When we start talking about what a person has attained.
Right.
Because, everybody wants to be great.
Yes.
I want to be great. I want to be, I love having my name on people's lips.
Right.
It's a great feeling when people acknowledge you.
Right.
It just feels good.
Yeah.
Right.
Definitely.
But it's important for me to, I'm not like NWA, all publicity is good publicity.
Right. Right.
It matters what you say. It does not hinder my progress or my work.
Right.
But it does matter what you say. And so what I want to do is live a life that leaves a legacy of positivity, leaves a legacy of impact, leaves a legacy of harvest.
Right.
And I'm saying mentally, psychologically, spiritually, emotional harvest.
Right.
That's the type of legacy.
Right.
And I do believe that you can do that even with a limited amount of finance. Now, I want every blessing God has for me.
Yes.
You hear
Indeed.
me?
Mm-hmm.
Health-wise, mental state, spiritually, and financially.
Right.
I don't want to have to worry about bills.
Right.
I pray very soon. I pray that the manifestation of financial liberation be upon my life.
Right.
In the name of Jesus.
Right.
I pray
Right.
that the manifestation of financial liberation accompany my other accomplishments in life.
Right.
And I pray that for everybody under the sound of my voice. I pray that the manifestation of financial liberation, independence,
Right.
be upon you.
Right.
But before that, I pray that God blesses you with the amount of character and integrity and stewardship
Mm-hmm.
to effectively manage what he has laid upon you or into your life,
Definitely.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So that it's not just limited to financial gain.
Right.
Because without all of these things, you can have 100 million today
Right.
and in 10 years be flat broke.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
That's true. That's true.
Absolutely. God, look, I am God's people are not broke people.
Right.
Let me make that very, very clear.
Right.
We are not broke people. We're supposed to have something. If the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, the world and they that dwell therein, and I'm an heir,
Right.
why should I be broke?
Right.
Right. I'm gonna have some, and I have some stuff.
Right.
You know,
Ain't that clear?
right. I just don't want to be measured by that.
Right.
You
Right.
know, God didn't put you here for you to be broke.
Right.
Nah.
Right.
He said, I wish above all things that you would prosper and be in health,
Prosper.
even as your soul
Yes.
prospers.
Yes, indeed.
So as you grow in grace, grow in the Lord, you should have something to show for your existence here in the earthly realm.
Right. Like I said, money answers all things, but the love of money is root of all evil. So are you earning money to answer situations or money for status? Motive and context matters.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
People say, I have a career and I'm in ministry.
Right.
Well, why aren't you in full-time ministry? Because I believe that in this season of my life,
Right.
that my career is a funding source
Right.
for my ministry.
Yep.
That's just what I believe. And I've always believed that.
Right.
If God decides to change the situation in my career,
Right.
then evidently he has another funding source
Yes, indeed.
for the ministry.
Right.
People say, well, it's a matter of faith. Well, I believe in my career. Just like I believe in my ministry.
Right.
I don't mind working in the technical field.
Right.
Right. I don't mind seeing that paycheck. I feel better with that paycheck coming external from the church than me taking money from the church.
Right. Right.
Right. Now,
Yes, indeed.
I also believe in giving a gift in the name of a prophet so that you can receive a prophet's reward.
Right.
You know, there's that as well. But again, that's the book of Brian.
Right.
You understand? So yeah, I want money and I want a lot of it. Just don't measure me by it.
Right. 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 The measuring by it. The measuring by it. So do you think well, okay, let me ask you this. Do we as believers, right? How do we get out of the space of measuring each other by finance? I know that's like a really kind of broad question, but I'm, how do we kind of change our habits? And that's everybody that's listening. Like, think about it. Like, how do we get out of that space of measuring by finance, or are your connections or people you talk to measured by finance, directly or indirectly? Because you may not ask what somebody's in somebody's pocket, but you connect by what they wear or what they drive, and I know that's a tough one for people to be real transparent and be like, yeah, I do. I almost rolled up to a dude. He had acid on his car, looking like the paint coming off. I ain't talked to them, but do we?
How do we get away from?
Yeah.
There's so much to that.
I guess like the judgmental mindset, when dealing with other people. I mean, and I can understand, like, it's you, if there's someone that's always asking you for something, and that's one thing, like, oh man, avoiding, or like, hey, like, they always asking, it can be a drain. I get it. And then it's like finding ways, like, I can't, like we said, there's help, and then there's supporting, like, I don't mind assisting or trying to, but get into this support. But let's see. Okay, Mike said, Okay, that's good. COVID helped me. I was unemployed this time last year. Someone asked me, what do I do for a living?
Yeah, but the answer to
Okay.
that is you do exactly what you were doing until you're
Right.
doing something else.
Right. He said,
You
I
know,
was like,
because
wow.
your qualifications didn't change because you became unemployed.
Right.
If you're an IT person, if you're in a technical field and
Right.
unemployed, what do you do for a living? I'm in the technical field. You're still in the technical field.
Right.
You just
Right.
in a season of unemployment.
Yeah.
So your career hadn't changed until it changed.
Yeah.
You know,
But
but I understand what you're saying. I mean,
yeah.
because I've been there.
Right.
Listen, I have lost. I've been in a situation where I felt like I had lost everything.
Right. Right.
But in that season, what I found was greater than anything I could have ever lost, because I found Christ in that situation, in that season of my life. You know,
Right.
and yes, what you do for a living does not. Yeah, what I do is not who I am. You're absolutely right. Absolutely right.
And I think
that's one of the, and you just answered the question. That is exactly why we cannot measure man by his financial disposition.
Right.
Because what I have does not equate to who I am.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah. Yep.
there are very, very high quality, high moral, high integrity, high character individuals who have very little money in the bank.
Right. Right.
And they don't feel broke.
Right. True indeed.
Yeah.
I think, and it's funny that you going through the unemployment, especially if you're like a lot of men that work like all the time. Like there's never, hardly a gap. If I'm not in a job right now, it's because I left the job and I'm going someplace else. I'm in my in between, my furlough until the next job starts.
I'm on my way to work.
Right. But when it's like, if you had something for like 20 years, sometimes you get into the space of allowing a job to define you, and it becomes so part of your character. You get that call like, oh, we need to sit down. We're having cutbacks. We no longer need your services. What? like all of who you are has been so wrapped up in this position that, it's like you're taking away part of me by taking away this job. And we have to get into a space to know that, what you do is not who you are.
Right.
What you do is not who you are. God has already placed purpose in you to do some great things. So don't allow a job, especially even in your business, don't allow it to define who you are. Don't allow it, because people go into some serious depressions when they lose a job or an opportunity and then they're not doing something they've done for 25 years. That's why some people have such a hard time retiring, because they're so wrapped up into it. Rich said, hey, my brother, just awesome and really funny how things work out. Sometimes anxiety melts away, then recommendations that I can do over the next 5 weeks and save a ton of money. Right. Definitely. Oh, but yeah, you can't.
That's a random Richard moment.
Right. Right. That's what you go. That is the official word, the random Richard. Warning, guys, it's about to be a random Richard moment. I try to read through them like, let me see this. I love you, Richard.
Absolutely.
But yeah, it's like I said, you just can't. And that's kind of when I'll have this conversation about, is a man's success only measured by money? Because I've been out of work. I've been out of a job, or going through a moment where there's nothing coming in, that's it. It's over, and you just struggling, just hoping and struggling and hoping for the best to come. And like I said, if you work something so long, not allowing a position to make you who you are, like even if, you have a space or a position in the church, and something happens, something changes, something shifts, it's just because you're not doing that thing anymore doesn't mean you no longer have purpose. Just because you're not in that position any longer doesn't mean that it's over for you. God has placed something in you to do. God has given you work to do. So just you find a way to pivot, find a way to shift. Because I know in some, church could be sometimes the hardest. We worse than losing your job, because even if there's no money attached, it's like, I thought this was what I'm supposed to be doing, and it's just that season is over. Now it's time to move to another space.
Well, you just got corrected.
He said, Sam, you're not. I didn't launch. You launched. I didn't say that. Did I say I'm out of a job? I didn't say that.
But he said he has
I'm
been in
talking previous.
situations.
Yes.
He's been in situations where he was out of a job and had nothing
Right.
coming in. He didn't say he's out of a job, sis.
Thanks, Sam. Right. Let's see. Oh, funny. Let's see what page. So yeah, Mernon. So we have to, how we measure, how we define is key. What we pursue, what we go after, how we spend our time. What are you spending your time on?
I mean, what you want to measure a man, measure him based on what he does with the power that he has.
Right.
Measure him based on what he does with the resources that he has.
Right.
Don't measure him by what he has.
Right.
Measure him by what he does, how he effectively administers, stewards over what he has. If you want to measure, right? If you want to evaluate. But my thing is, why not appreciate the value of presence? Appreciate what you have in him, as opposed to evaluating. I'm not saying that evaluation is not a key component, because when we talk about unifying with someone, coming into union with someone, you need to know what you're dealing with. You need to know what you're embracing, what you're inviting into your personal realm. And I get that. And there is an evaluation process. But to me, that's an evaluation of connection. What level, what layers of connection do we have? And is it enough for us to become one? To me, that's different. And I think that is critical. But again, that in that context, you're looking at the character, the integrity, the heart of a man. I love that because again, I'm going to go back to the encounter between Jesus and Peter. Jesus had a conversation with Peter. He looked him right in the face, knowing that Peter was going to deny him. Right. But what he spoke to Peter about was not his presence, but his future. Because he knew, based on what he understood about Peter and his character, that in spite of what I know you're getting ready to do, there's greater coming for you. And when that happens, I want you to be able to take what has happened with you and help somebody else.
That's good.
Definitely. When I met Lady, Lisa said that she alluded to this earlier. When I met Lady, I was a single parent in LA with 3 children in a little apartment in Inglewood, California. She was a single woman working for the state of California. I was in a struggle, right? I didn't look like a struggle.
Right. That's good.
But I was in a struggle. I was doing everything I could to hold it together, to keep it together. But I trusted God, for my future and for my children. And so I kept grinding. And then I met this woman, and I know the first time she came to my spot, she was like, oh.
Right.
And I told her, I'm like, listen, this is who I am. Yeah, seeing the king and the king, absolutely. But I ain't no baby goat. I'm playing with that. I'm playing. But the reality is, when I recognize that she was seriously considering me, I had to share a plan with her. She didn't invite me to share the plan. I believe that she was waiting to see if I had one. You understand? Because she saw quality, she saw character, she saw things in me that made her, allow me to see her again. But she was also waiting to hear something. She wanted to hear something beyond my circumstance.
Right. Yes, indeed.
And
Yes,
so I
indeed.
believe she
Yeah.
gave me time. And when we sat down, we went to Jack in the Box. I took her to Jack in the Box
Right.
because I knew I'm like, we've seen each other too many times
Right.
for me not to take this more seriously. And I didn't tell this woman where I'm going. So I had to sit her down and tell her, I know what this looks like today,
Right.
but today is not our future.
Right.
Right. And so I began to lay that thing out. And I didn't lay out this beautiful, trouble-free plan. I knew it was going to take something. We had a real raw conversation and I did the talking.
Right.
Right. Because I knew what was going to be required of me.
Right.
Especially talking to somebody on the other side of the table that had no children, that wasn't struggling to pay her bills because it was just her.
Right.
You understand?
Right.
And she drove a state vehicle. She wasn't even driving her own car. They gave her a car to drive, and so I had to have a plan if I wanted to keep her attention.
Yes.
Right. And the plan that I laid out was enough for her to become part of the plan.
Right.
Woo.
Right.
So when you talk about measuring a man, it's not what he has, it's what he's doing with what he has.
Right.
And sometimes you can rule a person out because of day one.
Right.
Which means you're short-sighted and you can't see day 5,000.
Right.
You can't. And the script, Peter talked about it. He said that there's a problem for those who cannot see afar off. Right. That creates issues.
Right.
He that lacketh these things is blind and cannot see afar off.
Right.
Right. And so you have to have some of that. But again, man has to show some signs. You got to have something to talk about. You need to have a plan, as Lisa was alluding to.
Right. I think that the statement you said, today is not our future. Today is not our future. And being able to see past right now and being with someone that can cast vision. And it doesn't, and I share that because, there are those that are seeking to find a partner in life, the husband, searching for a wife waiting for a husband, that vision matters. Like, where are we going? What are we doing? Is this your place? Is this what you're set at? And what's the goal from this position in your job? What happens if you don't have the job? Have you, considered these things, but being able to not just be right now, what does our future look like? And to be around a man that can cast vision is a big thing, not talk junk, but really cast vision, give you kind of a plan of direction of what's happening, what's going to happen, how you see certain things. There's never a perfect plan because things change. Seasons change, and where I thought we were going, we have to go. We're going this way. So it's imperative, as every man should have a vision. Every man should have some level of direction and not just living day by day. And I've been doing that, at times. And sometimes you have to write down. You have to write the vision. You have to have focus. You got to know where you're going. And if you're already connected with someone, let them be your help. And I've had that space as well, like just to open up and not feel like I got to do it all myself. If you have a help meet already, utilize them. They're there for you to assist in bringing something to pass. God placed them in your life for a reason. And that's it. and it's as simple as that,
Well, here and the other piece is, when you have something within yourself, when you know your own makeup, right? One thing that I've learned is each individual has to be prepared or preparing themselves to bring something to the table.
Right.
I think you've lost it if you're preparing yourself to be kept.
Right.
Outside of anybody but God.
Right.
I think everyone should be targeting their next level of success
Right.
because it's within your grasp. And in pursuit of that,
Yeah.
you can be aligned with someone who's traveling in the same direction that you're traveling with, and the rest is God's glory.
Right.
But first, I think you have to have something within yourself, because you're no good to anyone that you're considering measuring if you haven't first taken account of you. You know, every promise that God has for me is a promise that God has for you. We may not get them in the same form or fashion, but the promises of God are yea and amen. And it doesn't say yea and amen just for Brian. It's for everybody that's called according to his purpose.
Right.
And so I believe that you get your eyes off of the measurement of somebody else's stuff.
Yes.
When you're focused on what God has promised you.
Right.
That's the reality.
True.
Anybody that's sitting around counting somebody else's money is someone who probably does not have the money or does not have a plan.
Right.
Because I don't have time to count somebody else's money.
Yes.
You understand?
Yes,
you can talk good game, but having good game doesn't move me.
Right.
You understand?
Right.
I heard Dr. Chris Burton was having a conversation with a man, and they were talking about preaching. And, you know, there's a lot of folks that can preach a good word, right? But your life hasn't changed.
Right.
Y'all hear me? You can have all the money in the world.
Right.
And live a totally empty life.
Right.
You know, you better have something going on the inside. And so don't limit your perception or your perspective to the tangible things that someone has. You better be looking deeper than that.
Right.
You know, because what you'll do, you'll mess around and miss God's gift in a sanitation worker.
Right.
And get lost with the bestiality of a Wall Street accountant.
Right. Yes, indeed. True indeed. Let that marinate. Let that marinate. All right. So make sure you join our community. Text LWN to 84576. Never miss an episode of Brothers of Legacy, Purpose for Forever, or Sisters of Legacy. So make sure you stay connected. What's today? Thursday. All right. Tomorrow is Friday. Possibly playing the game. Gotta see. So make sure it's Freestyle Friday. That's why it's freestyle. We never know what may happen. So make sure you stay connected so you know what's going on, know what's going down. Make sure you share. Tell somebody about the Brothers of Legacy. Let them be a part of this conversation. We're ever growing and reaching out, and doing some great things. And so we appreciate you for rocking with us and hanging with us. We don't take you being here for granted. As always, know that we love you. God loves you more. And we look forward to seeing you guys in the AM. As always, stay safe, continue to pray, and don't lose heart. Don't lose focus. And guess what? It's going to be all right. It's going to be all right. All right. So we'll see you tomorrow. Later. I didn't want to catch that. Good morning. Welcome to another episode. Good morning. Everybody. Oh, I didn't close it out.